There's a specific kind of suffering that doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly. In the moment of a job disappears. A plan collapses. A future that felt certain suddenly isn't. And in that moment, underneath the shock and the practicalities, a deeper fear surfaces. If this is gone, what am I? The philosopher who answered that question more clearly than anyone in history had no job, no status, no citizenship, and for the first half of his life, no freedom. He was a slave, and he is the reason Stoicism still exists. Hierapolis, around 50 AD, a slave boy, property of a Roman official named Epictetus, is brought into contact with something unusual, Stoic philosophy, not through a school, through proximity, through listening. His name was Epictetus. In Greek, it means simply the acquired one. What he encountered in those early years was a single idea that would reorganize everything. The Stoics called it the Dichotomy of Control. Its premise was almost offensively simple. Some things are up to us. Most things are not. For a slave, a person whose body, location, and labor belonged to someone else, this distinction wasn't abstract. It was the difference between despair and survival. Epictetus' master was known for cruelty. There's a story, reported by several ancient sources, of Epictetus twisting Epictetus' leg, deliberately, slowly. Epictetus, by the account that survived, looked at him and said, "You will break it." The leg broke. Did I not tell you? This is not a story about endurance. It is not about being emotionally numb or suppressing pain. It is about a philosophical position so clearly held that it restructures what pain means. The leg was external. It was not up to Epictetus. What remained up to him, what no one could reach, was his response, his judgment, his character in that moment. The Stoics had a word for this faculty, Prohairesis. It is one of the most important concepts in ancient philosophy and one of the least understood. It does not mean willpower. It does not mean positive thinking. It means the capacity to choose, not what happens to you, but who you are inside what happens. Prohairesis, Epictetus argued, is the only thing that is truly ours. Everything else, health, reputation, wealth, relationships, success, falls into the category of the external, valuable perhaps, worth pursuing, but not ours in the final sense. They can be taken. Prohairesis cannot. This is why the leg breaking was not a defeat. Epictetus could own Epictetus' body. He could not own his faculty of choice. In the moment important sense, Epictetus was already free, and had been the entire time. Eventually, Epictetus was freed. He went to Rome, studied under the Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus.
Epictetus, remember, the wise man seeks not to control what is beyond him.
Yes, master, only our judgments and actions.
Precisely. In this lies true freedom.
I understand. I will practice this.
And began teaching himself. When the Emperor Domitian expelled all philosophers from Rome, Epictetus walked to Nicopolis, a modest city in northern Greece, and continued. Students came from across the empire. They left their comfortable lives in Rome and Athens to sit in a small room and listen to a man who owned almost nothing. No written works, no institutional affiliation, a crooked leg, and a set of ideas that had been tested in conditions most philosophers never faced. What he taught was never organized around a simple but demanding framework. The dichotomy of control was the foundation, but Epictetus pushed further. He introduced what he called the discipline of desire, the practice of wanting only what is within your power, so that disappointment becomes structurally impossible, and the discipline of action, choosing to engage fully with life while remaining inwardly detached from outcomes. This is where most people misunderstand Stoicism. They hear detachment and assume passivity. They hear control response and assume coldness. But Epictetus was neither passive nor cold. He ran a school, he argued fiercely, he cared deeply about his students. The detachment was not from life. It was from the illusion that external outcomes determine internal worth. He put it directly, seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. No resignation, alignment. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, kept a personal journal in which Epictetus is the most quoted thinker, a slave's philosophy, written in a king's private notebook. The ideas traveled further than the man ever did. Near the end of his life, Epictetus lived with extraordinary simplicity. A small house, almost no possessions. When he died, the only item of note was an iron lamp. It was auctioned afterward and sold for 3,000 drachmas, an absurd sum for an object that was worth almost nothing. People wanted it because it had been his. The man who thought the external things do not define us left behind almost none of them, and the one object people scrambled to own was the one that had simply been present while he thought. Someone today is sitting with a version of the same question Epictetus answered from a slave's quarters in Rome. The circumstances are different. A job lost, a business failed, an identity that no longer fits, but the structure of the problem is identical. They are suffering not from what happened, but from the belief that what happened defines them. Somewhere in the rubble, if they follow the line of thought Epictetus left behind, is a question that cuts through everything else. What in all of this is actually mine? Not the outcome, not the reputation, not what others decide. The answer, when it comes, is quieter than expected and more solid than everything that was lost. The lamp sold for 3,000 drachmas. The buyer wanted something that had been near greatness, but the greatness was never in the lamp. It was in the quality of thought that happened beside it, in the choice, made daily, to locate worth somewhere that cannot be auctioned. What is actually mine? The silence that began in chains. The question that is still worth asking.